Do you know that's exactly what happened with the Somali pirates? Do you know the Somali pirates' origin story?
No.
The Somali pirates called themselves the People's Coast Guard of Somalia. They were defending their waters against Europeans dumping toxic waste in the ocean. They were fishermen. So they had found that these ships were dumping water and killing all their fish, and said, these motherfuckers, we're going to hold them responsible. So they boarded these ships, kidnapped them, and said, hey, you have to pay us. We've lost all this money from all our fish. We don't have any fish. Give us money or we'll kill these motherfuckers. And they gave them money and they said, hey, let's start kidnapping people. Like this is way better. And then, you know, there's a narcotic aspect to it because of cat, because the widespread use of this narcotic cat, which is like an amphetamine that they, is it a leaf? K-H-A-T? That's like, you know, the guy on the boat. Look at me. I'm the captain now. That guy's cracked out. I mean, they're all real skinny. You were kidnapped by Somali pirates, and you were held hostage for more than 2 years.
Yeah.
What the fuck was that like? And what does it feel like to be a free man now after all that?
Are you kidding? It feels great.
In America, wandering around the valley.
The valley, where I was born and raised, by the way.
Were you?
Yeah, this is the first time I've been back in the valley for a couple of years now.
What happened, and how did it happen?
Long story. So I went to Somalia in the first place to write a book, a very different book about Somali pirates.
Right in front of you.
And so I'm a journalist. I was working in Berlin at the time, and I had followed the very long trial of 10 Somali pirates in Germany, in Hamburg, for about a year, all of 2011. And before that, I had already thought about going to Somalia because the pirate story was interesting in all sorts of ways that I thought other writers weren't getting to. And I had met another journalist, a documentary maker named Ashwin Rahman, who also wanted to go to Somalia for his own project. And so we talked about going for a long time. And by the end of 2011, in the middle of the trial, all our plans came together, and we wound up going in January of 2012. And we had about 10 days of good research. We both got pretty good material, and we were in a part of Somalia where other journalists had gone, so we weren't doing something that was totally off the map, you know. And on the 10th day, Ashwin flew off to Mogadishu, and I went with him to the airport. We saw him off, and it was on the way back from the airport that a truck was waiting for our car. And the truck, which was actually a technical, so a battle wagon with a cannon in the back, stopped us, aimed the cannon through the windshield, overpowered my guard, and 12 guys with Kalashnikovs pulled me out of the car. So they put me in another car, and we drove off. So from that moment on, I was a captive.
Jesus Christ. And so they were obviously trying to get some hostage money.
Yeah.
Ransom money.
No, it was about money. And I think they were hoping for both of us, by the way. Ashwin feels very lucky that he didn't get captured.
So they had planned this.
Yeah, and they were probably waiting for our car earlier in the morning. It was just Ashwin's good luck that we took a different route to the airport.
How much money were they asking for?
So the first thing they asked for me was $20 million, but that was after the first week. So I went for a week without having a phone call home. And in that period, SEALs rescued 2 other hostages from another part of central Somalia, including Jessica Buchanan, an American. And I think 9 Somali guards died in that raid. And they had some clan relationship to some of the guys holding me. And so the guys holding me were very upset. And I think that's why they asked for $20 million and more importantly, held on to that demand for so long. They held on to it for almost a year.
That specific number, they wouldn't budge.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so they were in negotiations?
Yeah, there were negotiations, but they were, phony negotiations in some sense because the Somalis weren't really negotiating.
So for some background for people that are unfamiliar with the situation in Somalia, if correct me if I'm wrong, that area was traditionally fishermen. And
yeah, that's wrong.
It's wrong.
Okay, so that's actually the point of the book. That's actually one level of the title, The Desert and the Sea. So that's you get the idea from things that Somali pirates like to say.
Oh, okay.
That they're just frustrated fishermen. That's only part of the story. and so that's a very important premise in the book. There are fishing communities on the coast, and they're being hard hit definitely by illegal ships that come in to just steal the fish. But that's a problem up and down Africa, and because of that problem, once Somalia had no government, there was no navy to defend the coastline. Local sort of clan leaders would send out boats with militiamen and hold fishing boats for $50,000 ransoms over 24-hour periods. Really nothing very much, and they called it a license fee, and that's how you did business in Somalia in the 90s. We didn't hear about that; it was too small time. We started to hear about it when they graduated to capturing cargo ships.
What I had heard was that there was illegal dumping that wasn't just fishing.
Also,
yeah, and that they initially called themselves the People's Coast Guard of Somalia, or the Voluntary Coast Guard.
Yeah, one or two pirate gangs tried to call themselves that, and they had a point. There was no one else patrolling the coast.
But that wasn't really what was going on.
No. I was captured on land, first of all. Every other hostage I met was a poor fisherman, captured hundreds of miles from the Somali coast. So that's not protecting the coast.
That's always in the narrative, this cat stuff, that they're somehow or another unhinged because they're on this stuff all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you can get really unhinged in the sense that once you're wired on it, you're easily sort of upset, and these guys would sometimes have fist fights in front of me and that kind of thing.
Really?
Not all the time, but yeah, they would get hopped up. They would just get jittery, and that's very dangerous with Kalashnikovs lying around.
So their culture somehow or another has evolved to this point where it's insanely common to kidnap people, to the point where if you talk about Somali pirates, there are very few countries where pirates go after their name so easily.
Yeah, kidnapping became part of the culture. That's true, but pirate bosses, which are not so active now off the coast, also have other businesses that they get involved in. And so I've written about this in the meantime too. They get involved in gun smuggling and also even people smuggling on the Horn of Africa. So whatever takes that kind of equipment, SUVs, Kalashnikovs, cheap food.
When you say people smuggling, what do you mean?
It's a good story. I found out, I'm the person that proved that on the route between Somalia to Libya, some former pirate bosses were active in moving people. So in other words, Somalis who want to go to Libya will put themselves in the hands of some traffickers, and some of those traffickers might be ex-pirates.
But go there as far as just being transported willingly?
Willingly at first, and then there's always a place in Sudan where it shifts from being willing to being unwilling.
Well, this is an issue that's been going on in Libya recently. I'm sure you saw the most recent slave auctions that were videotaped and put on YouTube, which was...
The stories are awful. I've heard those firsthand, yeah.
Insanely disturbing that you're watching a videotape of slave auctions in 2018.
It's more than disturbing. It's a revival of what was going on when slavery was legal. So in other words... where the Somalis are involved up to the Libyan border is one story, and that's the story I've covered. What happens in Libya is a different story. The clans and the routes that migrants take through Libya, the clans they put themselves in the hands of, are still the same as the clans and the routes that were used during the slave trade. So there's almost like there's a historical memory there of what went on, and it's the same thing happening.
Wow.
So I suspect a lot of migrants don't quite know how bad it can get. The route up until Libya is probably easier than Libya itself. Libya itself sounds like a horror show for the migrants.
Well, it's particularly, it's one of those bizarre things. We have a horrible dictator like Muammar Gaddafi, and you say, well, it's probably a good thing to get rid of that guy, right? But no, when you get rid of him, then you have this power vacuum, and apparently it's a failed state now, and it's gotten even worse.
Yeah, it's going in the direction of Somalia right now, and there are a couple of rival governments. I think it's a little bit more stable. than Somalia was after their dictator fell. But there's a similar thing going on. It's true. Gaddafi was a bad guy, but he was also a bulwark, and he knew that, and he used that to his advantage with
bulwark?
Europe. A bulwark against migration paths.
I've never heard that expression.
Oh, yeah.
A bulwark.
A bulwark?
No, what does that mean?
A roadblock.
Oh, okay. When you were there, when you decided to take 10 days and you'd done all this research, what did you expect when you went there, and what was different?
Well, so we were careful about finding security. We found a Somali elder in Berlin who could offer the protection of his clan in Somalia, and he had done it with another journalist, a German journalist. And he took us out from Galkayo, which is a town in central Somalia, out to the coast to Hobyo, which is a pirate town you might have heard of. And
A pirate town.
an actual pirate town, yeah.
So it's all pirates.
Well, it's in the control of pirates. So in other words, the government that sits in Galkayo has no influence there. The pirates are the ones who can have the say-so.
So what is their business like? I mean, when you say it's like a pirate town, so the pirates are essentially in control, but like what else is going on there if you've got pirates in control?
No, normal Somali life is going on there, but let's say the police force would be pirates.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, when we got there, it was pretty quiet, and we didn't see much normal life, and we had a very organized interview and lunch one afternoon with a guy who turned out to be a real pirate. That wasn't a joke. And then we left around sundown, and that was it. We didn't spend a whole lot of time in Hobyo.
I did this movie where I for Peter Pan, where I played a pirate, and I did all this research on pirates. Do you know that the British Navy essentially was assembled by, it was the success of pirates that was instrumental, because they had this war with the Spanish, and there were these pirates, and they're like, hey, you can free reign if you attack these Spanish. And so they essentially, it was essentially a bunch of criminals.
Wow.
And then they absorbed some of the pirates. They're like, all right, you can be
general.
The general, and you can go back to England, and you can have, and they gave part of Jamaica to another pirate. It's like the British Navy, this great military power, was essentially criminals.
It's kind of stunning
being spoken.
when you see how little England is.
Yeah.
It makes sense what you're talking about with pirates, that they had to be the most horrific monsters to try to control the empire.
Well, it's also insane. One of the things they did is they built a navy, and they got their ass kicked by the British. So it's really fascinating to see how quick these empires come and how quick they disappear.
Cat is a stimulant, and chewing it can make people more alert and talkative, produce feelings of elevation, suppress the appetite. Huh.
Yeah.
Isn't it more potent than that?
Yeah.
I think they're being really, they're probably selling it.
They're being pretty liberal, yeah. Pretty general in their talk, I guess.
Do you know how that all started? The pirate thing?
Mm-mm.
It started from people. They were originally just fishermen, and people were dumping shit off the coast of Somalia. Yeah. I think they called themselves the People's Coast Guard of Somalia. Google that, the People's Coast Guard of Somalia. I'm pretty sure that's what they originally started calling themselves. They were fishermen who were dealing with people dumping toxic waste into the ocean, and they were killing all the fish. So they were violating international law, these people that were doing that. So what they would do is they'd kidnap those people and hold them for ransom for what they did to the ocean.
Right.
And then they realized, well, fuck this, let's just start kidnapping people.
Wow.
And then they just chewing cat and jacking people. Here it is. Somalis initially banded together to protect more than 1,000 miles of the country's coastal waters from illegal fishing vessels and the dumping of toxic waste. When Mohammed Sal Bar was ousted in 1991, Somalia disintegrated into warring clans, each with its own militia. 14 different national governments followed, but have failed to unite the country. Ethiopia inspired and supported. Okay. Yeah. So they started off just trying to protect their waters. They got turned into characters in a Tom Hanks movie.
Yeah.
I didn't see that movie.
That seems like it would really suck. I remember when they had that thing going off the coast in the Gulf. What was that deep water and something?
Deepwater Horizon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was gnarly.